Good evening. Today is Tuesday, August 17th, and I would like to call this meeting to order. Tonight, we have a very special guest. We have Cooper Carr Anaya, who will lead us in the pledge. So please stand whenever you're ready, Cooper.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Cooper. So tonight we will follow our agenda. In order to be in the boardroom, you must wear a mask. There are no exceptions. Even when you are testifying, please wear your mask. We are now at the approval of our agenda. Before that, though, I'd like to do the land acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge with gratitude the Dena'ina people, past and present, who have lived on these lands since long before Anchorage was here. May we all be good stewards of these lands. Shannon. Now that leads us to approval of the agenda. I will accept a motion.
Madam President, I move we accept the agenda as posted.
Second. Okay, it's moved and second. Are there any opposes to approving the agenda? Any opposition? Seeing none, the agenda is approved as submitted. That brings us to item B, which is our community engagement. Most of your, I think most of tonight's community engagement is in the form of written reports. But actually, since none of the board committees will all meet tomorrow, those reports are not attached. So tomorrow we have Communications Committee, we have Governance, and I think Finance the next day. Okay, the next week. Okay, thank you. Okay. Moving on to item C on the agenda. Our goal monitoring will start in September. And basically this is keeps us the accountability for our goals and guardrails that will start in September. So you can look forward to more information on as we get closer to September. And then that brings us to our public testimony. Give me just a minute. So I want to welcome you all. We really look forward to hearing your voices. We have set aside 1 hour at the beginning of our meeting and 1 hour at the end of our meeting, specifically to hear your voice. So in this first hour, we will do as many as we can. And after that, we will, at the end, we'll hear everybody else. Or you may submit your testimony in writing. During our public testimony, the board will not respond to questions or engage in discussion. This is your time to talk or speak and our time to listen. As I said earlier, please keep your masks on when you do your testimony at all times in the building, especially in the boardroom. The school board welcomes the public to observe. I'm really happy to see students here to observe the process. But to be productive, our meetings must be structured and civil. We conduct our meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. And those rules require that not just the board, but those who are presenting before the board be civil and respectful of this space and each other's opinions. So specifically, we are asking that there be no personal attacks. Whether you agree or disagree, we do it respectfully in this space. Refrain from disturbing the meeting. That means no cheering, jeering, clapping, waving posters, waving signs. Attendees will not be permitted to interrupt the meeting. We all agree that there should be no profanity and no cussing. Very disrespectful. We would not accept that from our students. We will not accept that from our guests. So as the president of the board, it is my duty to enforce rules of civility and respect and decorum. As such, I have the authority to rule any speaker out of order for violation of these rules or other rules. The reference for those of you who might need it is our board policy 9323. And so with that, we will begin our public testimony. Okay, first up we have Ashley McInnes. So do I see Ashley? Okay, I can come back to Ashley McInnes. I'll try to circle back around. We are a little earlier than usual. What about in person? We have Kenneth Zion. Kenneth, are you here? What about Anita Wright? Anita Wright? Okay. We have Danielle Kemp. Is he there? Oh, he's in person. Oh, I'm looking telephonically.
I know. I decided to come on up here and surprise everybody. All right.
Welcome, Mr. Kemp. You have 3 minutes.
Oh, thank you. That was almost terrible. Thank you to the board for allowing me to speak tonight. You know, this is the first time I've actually testified in person, and it is awesome to see everybody's beautiful eyes, even though I can't see everybody's faces. But it is good to be here. Today, I am just full of joy. That's what I came here to talk about, is the joy, the absolute exhaustive joy that I have felt today. As a teacher, on day one, looking at my kids' eyes as they came into school, excited, elated, almost more than me. I think I was more excited than the kids. So I have to say that if you've never experienced that kind of joy, you know, it is something to experience. So yeah. I would also like to give praise to the board for sticking with your mask mandate. It takes courage to stick to what you know is right. And so I applaud you for that. So thank you for keeping our kids safe, keeping us safe in the community. And I would also like to applaud the board. I'm giving a lot of kudos tonight. I would also like to applaud the board on its expanded draft of the goals and guardrails. I saw that you included diversity in teacher hires. And that just, once again, that added a little bit more joy. All right, that we are moving in the right direction. That's a very positive step. So I would hope that we continue to move in that direction and to improve on those. Before I go, I see I have a minute left. I would also be remiss if I did not mention that I'm the president and co-founder of the Alaska Coalition of BIPOC Educators. We'll have our vice president here tonight, Rosalyn, who's going to speak a little bit later. But we have 2 events coming up. One on August 28th at the MLK Memorial in Anchorage. It is a Truth and Education rally. You're invited to come. And we also have a back to school jam. It is a backpack and supply giveaway on Labor Day at the Northway Mall that everyone is invited to donate. First of all, you can go to our website, acbe.org, and to attend. We're going to have COVID-19 vaccines there and a backpack giveaway for anybody who needs one. So thank you very much for your time and have a great night.
Thank you. Next, in person, we have Rosalyn Grady Weish. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Rosalyn. I am the Vice President of the Alaska Coalition of BIPOC Educators. I am the mother of 5 beautiful Black children, all face-to-face Anchorage School District students, and I am a member of the Totem Association. By the way, it is Totem Tuesday, where I'm asking you all to support us by wearing green every Tuesday. First, I would like to say I support the naming of the ASD facility in honor of Dr. Etheldra Davis, and I think more schools should be renamed after historical Alaskan educators. I'm also in support of our goals and guardrails, number 2, being modified to us not operating without a plan to develop a diverse and culturally responsive workforce. Not a business. I just want to shout out all you women up there in the line of fire. You represent grace and poise. You are an awesome example, and I'm proud that you are all in the positions that you're in, and you give me a look to my future. Now, I can't really complain about the school year yet because we're just in day 1 of students. So with that being said, as a parent, I'm looking forward to the pacing guides and the curriculum changes and things because so many children were impacted due to COVID last year. And last, paraprofessional educators. I want to give you all the praise. We take data, run classrooms. I used to walk around and say, I am just a teacher's aide until my supportive head teachers in administration told me I was more than that. To stop saying that. And I know I am know that I am an educator. I want you to hold your head up high this year and be very proud of your positions because we are needed. And after you change that diaper or have to duck from an incoming chair, you look at that clock at the end of your shift, smile and say, back at it again in the morning. I want us to eventually be able to graduate to that name, paraprofessional educator, because that's what we are. And have a beautiful and awesome year and know that you are valued. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, in person, we have Kennedy Grady. Welcome, Kennedy. You have 3 minutes.
I really just want to talk about the last school board meeting. In my opinion, there was few adults who honestly were acting really immature to what I would compare to like 6th grade boys. And it was kind of embarrassing to see adults who initially we as children look up to act in a way that's disrespectful, because they're also given the time to speak. But whenever you guys, the board, were speaking, they're not being very respectful of that. And I was really like disappointing for me because I thought adults were like more mature. I thought adults were more mature to be able to let someone else talk, because that's what we learned in school, to let someone else speak when they're speaking. And then when it's our turn, then we could speak. So it was very disappointing for me to see that. That's it.
Thank you, Kennedy. Next, we have Winter Grady.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Winter.
Can you pull the mic down for her?
My name is Winter.
What did you want to tell her? You okay? Tell her you met your teacher today.
I met my teacher
Today.
today.
And I can't wait to go to practice school tomorrow. Great.
I'd love to go to practice today.
Okay, you done? You want to say something else? Go ahead. Hurry. Go ahead. 2 minutes.
I love this. I love to go to McDonald's in the park,
Keep going.
and I love ice cream.
And how was summer school?
Good.
You want to tell them about Miss Megan? Go ahead.
Miss Megan is my teacher.
Was she fun? Tell them.
It was fun.
Okay, you done? Okay, say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Winter. Next, we have King and Queen Grady.
Hi,
Say my name is King,
my name is King.
and I'm going into preschool. Tell them, say I'm going into preschool. Oh, you gotta follow the rule. Say I'm going into preschool,
I'm going to preschool.
and my teacher is Miss Babylon. Go ahead.
My teacher is Babylon.
Thank you for wearing masks. Go ahead. Good. All right, say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, King
Say thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Queen. Next in person, we have Taylor Mitchell. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Taylor Mitchell. I want to express my support for the board and the superintendent. Thank you for making the right yet tough decisions that have garnered so much hatred and threats within the Anchorage community. I want to thank you for your respect and civility as you've been threatened with various things. Thank you for providing the flex option for kids this year, as it has allowed to keep my sister, who is too young to be vaccinated, at home so that I can teach her and work my job from home. I do support masking in our schools, with the caveat that the mandate will be reassessed as our community numbers are reevaluated on a regular basis. And I wanted to let everyone know, especially parents, that it's 100% possible to be more involved in your kid's school, actually show up to parent-teacher conferences, volunteer at your kid's school, find out when new curriculum is being proposed prior to the school board meetings, talk to your kids after school and ask them what they learned, and finally reach out to your school and ask when parent input is expected outside of school board meetings. I do echo the sentiments that at the last school board meeting, it was very discouraging for the obnoxious behavior that was displayed that parents typically frown upon with their own children. I want to say that in our American history deserves to be told, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What we want is the truth to be taught and a much deeper dive into the realities and ramifications of history, instead of our history being used as a weapon with the tactic of negative conditioning. Historical events aren't an invention of the radical left or big media. I've also heard the concerns about our kids being indoctrinated, and my question is into what? I think if parents are honest, their kids are being indoctrinated via TV shows, the movies parents let them watch, the internet parents pay for, video games parents buy, but we want to blame schools for indoctrination. I think not teaching the rippling ramifications of our actions is a disservice to our kids, who then become ignorant adults. Personally, I do agree that racism is taught. It's not something biological. I do agree that racism is interwoven in many of our institutions silently, as legally we've made it tricky to use outright. I do agree and slam racial colorblindness as a lie, because not caring about one's color doesn't mean you can't see it or don't see it. I do understand that there is a sensitivity when it comes to talking about race and accepting each person's role. This is not to say that community of colors are innocent or absolved of blame or guilt in the current breakdowns within our own communities, but this should be taught as part of our history as well. But the point is teaching nothing but the truth, the whole truth, so help us God. Let's not be scared of the truth. If we don't have anything to hide, we shouldn't be scared of teaching history in our schools. Our kids will be better off as adults, and kids have to know how to read and comprehend in order to get the truth anyway. So it's 100% possible to teach kids the fundamentals while learning history. And parts of U.S. history are absolutely offensive, but it's the truth, and the truth hurts sometimes. Again,
Thank you. Next online, telephonically, we have Celeste Hodge Grodden. Celeste, can you hear?
Sure.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Welcome.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, members of the Anchorage School Board and Superintendent Bishop. Thank you for the opportunity to testify tonight. I am Celeste Hodge Grodden, President and CEO of the Alaska Black Caucus. We are a nonprofit organization that advocates for the rights of Black people in the areas of health, justice, economics, and yes, education. First, thank you, Superintendent, for standing firm on mask policy, following criticism from individuals who clearly don't get it. You could have yielded, crumbled from the intimidation, but you didn't. You stood firm as the strong woman you are, which speaks volumes and is exactly what the late Congressman John Lewis meant by getting in good and necessary trouble. So thank you for implementing the most recent American of Pediatrics guidelines for mask use in schools. As we all know, vaccines are the most effective tool we have to end the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, the municipality is facing a high percentage of vaccine hesitancy, which means many eligible students remain unvaccinated. In Alaska, we are seeing a surge in new cases, which again put Anchorage in the red zone. Just today, Alaska had 5 deaths, 459 cases of COVID-19. And as we all know, Anchorage ICUs are at capacity as a surge of COVID-19 patients has hospitals scrambling. With these facts in mind, it is crucial we protect our children by requiring masks in the setting where they spend the majority of their day. Additionally, a large percentage of these cases are of the highly contagious Delta variant. That's why it's so important to use every tool in our toolkit to safeguard children from COVID-19, which includes masks. Lastly, I've shared this already, but it bears repeating. The Alaska Black Caucus fully supports the renaming of Fairview Elementary after Dr. Eldeldra Davis. So keep on keeping on, Superintendent Bishop, and the Anchorage School Board. The Alaska Black Caucus fully supports you and the work you're doing to keep our kids and the Anchorage School District employees safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, telephonically, we have Dr. Paula Williams. Dr. Williams, *6 to unmute.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Dr. Paul Williams. I'm a proud member of Alaska Black Caucus and co-chair of the Education Committee. And I'm testifying this evening to the importance of wearing our masks at all times, now especially that our schools have reopened and our children have re-entered the school system. Just this weekend just passed, as I was watching the news, I was taken back and baffled by just how many cases of this COVID-19, but not only the COVID-19, but this Delta virus strand that has attacked many of our young people. I know we live in America and this is the land of the free, but along with freedom comes responsibility. And now that our schools are reopened, we really need to take serious the importance of wearing masks and vaccinating. As I was looking, I saw that the U.S. now has an average of about 129,000 new COVID-19 cases per day, a rate that has doubled in a little over 2 weeks, according to the Reuters tally. Now, the number of hospitalized COVID-19 patients is at 6-month high, and an average of 600 people are dying each day of COVID-19, and that's double the death rate seen in July. The number of children hospitalized with COVID-19 in the United States hit a record high of just over 1,900 on Saturday just passed. And as hospitals were stretched to capacity fighting outbreaks caused by this highly transmissible Delta variant, the Delta variant, which is rapidly spreading among mostly the unvaccinated population of the U.S., has caused hospitalizations to spike in recent weeks, driving up the numbers of confirmed and suspected pediatric COVID-19 hospitalizations to 1,902, according to the data from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Now, our children, they currently make up about 2.4% of the nation's COVID-19 hospitalizations. Kids under 12 are not eligible to receive the vaccine, leaving them more vulnerable to infections from this new Delta highly transmissible variant. Now, if you're aware, but Sally Goza, she is the former president of the American Academy of Pediatrics. She told CNN on Saturday, this is not last year's COVID. This virus is worse, and our children are the ones that are going to be infected by it most. Therefore, we cannot afford to risk the lives of our children ourselves by not adhering to wearing of masks. I also want to take this moment to say thank you to Dr. Dina Bishop and the Anchorage School District Board of Education for mandating that masks are worn at all times by our students, our parents, our teachers, administrative staff, and all persons who are on and entering the school environment. I also want to thank you and commend you too for expanding the guardrails to include diversity. Thank you for this time.
Thank you. Next, we have in person, Kevin McGhee. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Kevin McGhee, and I'm president of the Anchorage NAACP. I appreciate the work the board and administration have put into getting our schools open, even with the incredible challenge posed by the Delta variant. As an organization that works to advance equity in the areas of civil rights, education, and healthcare, I want to thank you for the school mask mandate and for other measures like upgrading buildings, ventilation systems to reduce the risk of indoor virus transmission. It is often the case that our society's broader problems are challenges that our schools and our teachers confront, and COVID is no different. For our working poor, it's pretty clear we need to get kids back into school safely. We can't do that without a mask mandate. For context, this is a very modest policy. Many other employers have vaccine mandates, including public employees and the military. It's important to recognize that public health is about more than personal choices. If one child does not wear a mask, she or he endangers not primarily herself, but others. What if she is infecting a person of color who's more likely to live in an intergenerational household, more likely to lack high-quality health insurance, more likely to become homeless if COVID spreads in the household and leads to unpayable medical bills? You have to recognize who is at risk It's not just a student, it's family members. The impacts don't stop there. Many school-age children have younger siblings in daycare. If our schools spread the virus, we make it harder for daycares to stay open, and that has a negative ripple effect on working-class moms and dads who need to go to work to pay the rent, put food on the table, and so on. If school-age kids spread the virus to young kids in daycare, you're endangering daycare workers who overwhelmingly are women, people of color, working for poverty wages without benefits. Here's the bottom line. When we fail to implement public health measures, the impacts are most severe and can include death, homelessness, long-term illness, extreme economic hardship on our working poor, our people of color, frontline workers, and their kids who don't have the luxury of going into lockdown as families. Some people are lucky. They are rich. They have choices. They have the luxury of reducing their own exposure. You're making decisions that are life and death decisions for people who don't have that luxury, for Alaskans who have to show up to work every day, for their kids, for older family members who live with them, and many of these folks don't have good health insurance. Please think of them and understand their lives are on the line with decisions to make, and the impacts go far beyond an individual or even our students and teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, telephonically, we have Meredith Gutierrez. Meredith?
Hi.
Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Meredith Gutierrez, and I lead the Schools on Trails program for the Anchorage Park Foundation. Our mission is to build healthy parks and healthy people by improving access and connections to our community parks, trails, and green spaces. The Anchorage Park Foundation Schools on Trails program helps teachers take classes in all subject matter outside to nearby parks or trails. I recognize that ASD is facing many challenges with how to safely provide education during this global pandemic, and we encourage the district to consider outdoor learning and creating outdoor classroom spaces as part of their 2021-2022 school plan. Repurposing outdoor spaces is a cost-effective way to reduce the burden on indoor classrooms while providing fresh air, a mask break, and the health benefits associated with increased access to nature. Anchorage Park Foundation Schools on Trails program offers educator support by lending free portable outdoor classroom kits, including camp chairs, an educator resource guide on how to take students outside, and training seminars on outdoor teaching through Canvas from this year's ASDSA, sponsored by ASD Health and PE. When considering adaptations for learning this school year, I would encourage the board to support teachers in getting outside. We encourage the board to support outdoor learning by providing educators with the resources to safely and comfortably learn outside. Research shows the risk of transmission lessens greatly when outside. Being outside also allows for easier social distancing. Adapting to and normalizing outdoor learning can do more than just significantly reduce the transmission of COVID. Study after study shows the social, emotional, and cognitive benefits of learning outdoors. Teachers report better focus, retention of information, and improved general well-being with students learn outside. My favorite quote is from a local preschool teacher who said, "Outside, we all have space to be ourselves." Research also tells us that simply being outdoors can lower stress hormone levels, lessen the effects of anxiety, and dramatically reduce symptoms of PTSD, with one of the biggest concerns being the health and well-being of students, learning outside to be a place that can not only keep students healthy, but help heal. The Schools on Trails program wants to help support the district and individual teachers who are interested in adapting learning of any subject outdoors. I hope you seriously consider incorporating outdoor classrooms as part of the plan for a safe and successful academic year.
Thank you. Next in person, we have Pete Gump. Welcome, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Again, for letting me speak on behalf of my children. You know, what we've been listening to a whole bunch of experts for the past, for past 5 minutes for me. But I brought up the authoritarian rule the last time I was on with you guys. And then now it is what is it? We don't have a choice. We have an ultimatum. I mean, if you understand those two, What have we learned from last year with the CDC? They changed their rules so many times. I already explained that to you guys. And then now, as a responsible adult and a responsible parent, the only reason I'm here is because I have a kid in your school. And then I told you by my emails, we don't have to deal with experts from Philadelphia or wherever they may be. We can have it here because for the constant mask wearing since the start of 2020 in my village, I'm not going to say, I'll let them speak up for themselves because we're doing this. What my teacher taught me was to be an American, you know? I really thought about this was all you got to do is just do it. What he told me was you got to be right. All you got to do is just do what is right and not do what is wrong. That's simple. That's so simple. I mean, if you guys are understanding what CDC as an adult, who hires the coaches around here as a coach basketball team or football team? If they had a winning team, you guys would keep them. If they had a losing team, you guys would get rid of them. I mean, that's an advice, or as a coach, or who does the hiring? Who's to blame? I know the board does the hiring for that, for the superintendent, and the superintendent is you guys. We have so many egos here in America, but we only have to rely on two books, and one is the boss, and the other one is the religious freedom. Has anybody talked? In the first, what is it? The Bill of Rights, first 10. Is this ever even constitutional for so many egos? Because what I understand is that no matter how much egos you guys have in America, no ego, or no matter how much money you have, from my understanding.
Excuse me. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the gentleman that handed you something.
I'm not reading that. This is my choice.
Sir, I will give you back your time.
Okay.
Do not do that again, sir, or you will be dismissed from the room.
I'm
not talking to you. I'm talking to the gentleman behind you.
No, because, I'm not afraid.
So you may continue. Give him back his time, please.
The 32nd, listen to the 32nd president. He's a Democrat. I was like, what is it? Fear. It's all about pandemic of fear. The CDC changed the meaning of so many times. Who is an adult? I'm a responsible parent. I know what they said about my people. I ain't gonna say here. They said it on national TV. And then if you guys are following this rule of the CDC guidelines, and then what they called me and my people, and you guys are with this, you guys are looking at this as weakness.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up. Next, we have Bronson Frye. Bronson Frye. Sir, please leave the room. Welcome, Mr. Frye.
Hello, my name is Bronson Frye. I'm the business representative for the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, Alaska Local 1959. I'm here this evening to bring awareness to and hopefully gain some insight into an issue that, while it may not be on the forefront of everyone's minds, represents millions of dollars in cost savings to the Anchorage School District and the residents of our city. There are some pretty amazing new coatings technologies that can allow flat roof systems like those on the vast majority of ASD schools that traditionally would have had to have been torn off and replaced to instead be restored at about half the cost of a full roof replacement. A study has been done that shows that the school district has approximately 7 million square feet of school roof asset, and of that, 36% is compromised, meaning large sections of roof insulation is wet and losing heat, but it is still restorable. So these roofs, while slowly failing and losing more and more heat, have not yet deteriorated to a point where they must be completely torn off and replaced. Given current market rates, it would likely cost in the range of $98 million to tear off and replace just the 36% of roofs that are currently restorable, whereas they could be restored for around $39 million. That's a total cost savings to ASD to restore what is restorable of $58 million. I'd like to highlight that again. If we restore these roofs that are already compromised while they are still restorable before they deteriorate to a point where they need to be torn off and replaced, we collectively as a community and as a school district could save $58 million. Additionally, this is a completely renewable, sustainable system. And none of this is hypothetical. Last year, Golden View School, which is about 100,000 square feet roof, was restored with this coatings technology at a total cost of approximately $1.5 million. That's just under $16 a square foot. Compare this to the roof at Mears Middle School, which is about 135,000 square feet, a little bit bigger, which was torn off and replaced at a total cost of over $5.4 million. That is over $40 a square foot. So as the business representative for the Painters Union, there were over 4,600 man hours of work on the Golden View project, over 1,700 of which was done by federally registered apprentices, local Alaska kids who were recently graduated. The reason I'm here tonight is that after a very successful proof of concept project in Golden View last summer, myself and many others were looking forward to a busy summer of work helping restore these ASD roofs, and yet almost no contracts were awarded this year to address this issue. I don't know if this is some sort of internal bureaucratic tangle-up or if there's a conflict or misunderstanding between the different procurement processes within the school district or exactly what is going on. But I'm here to formally ask that the Anchorage School Board look into this issue, take advantage of this new.
Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you. Would you leave it with the executive assistant? Thank you. Next, telephonically, we have Toya Brown. Toya, it's *6. I'll come back around to Toya. Next, in person, we have Nyle Sherwood Williams. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, School Board. Nyle Sherwood Williams, resident of West Anchorage. I'd like to speak to the school board today with regards to bullying and intimidation that occurred to me at the door. I was harassed, surrounded by 3 school district personnel, and asked to remove my jacket and other pieces of clothing. I'm not sure if anyone else out in the audience had that happen to them, but it happened to me today as well. In my email approving my testimony, which had to be pre-screened for topic, I was told that no disturbance or willful interruption of any school board meeting shall be permitted. A disturbance happened at the door today, madam. Also, I was told that no oral presentation shall include charges or complaints against the school board. There is an exception for that, Madam President. And what that is when charges of child abuse are brought before the school board, and you are what they call mandatory reporters before the law, whereas sworn elected officials, just as if you're an EMT, a fire department official, or a police officer, you're a mandatory reporter. Teachers are mandatory reporters. Superintendents and school district personnel are also mandatory reporters. So at the last meeting, we let you know about Nuremberg Code violations that were going to be set to be ongoing. Today was day 1, Madam President, school board, and administrators of that tyranny being installed on the students of Anchorage. The coercion to wear a medical device, which is a face diaper, a mask covering, or any other medical device, that's coercion under the Nuremberg Code. People have been sentenced to life in prison for this. People have been sentenced to death.
Mr. Williams,
yes,
you need
madam.
to put your mask on, please.
I'm doing this for the benefit of the members of our community
Williams,
that can't hear, that are mute or are deaf.
If you do not put your mask on, you'll have to leave.
So you're coercing me to wear a medical device. Okay, so I have to continue because there's other points I need to make, Madam President, and I'm going to address the rest of my speech.
No, you're not.
To the crowd.
Mr.
Crowd
Williams.
members.
Mr. Williams.
There is a discrimination against the rights of your children.
You are out of order, sir.
I'm trespassing. I apologize for making a disruption
Next on our list, we have Louis Embry. I think I said that right. Welcome, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Louis Embry. As I stated at the last school board meeting, I do not have any children, but I'm a property owner and taxpayer here in Anchorage, and I have a vested interest in the school district. I want you to look and think critically about what's going on. We heard great statistics, great numbers about what's going on with the Delta variant and with COVID, with vaccinations, with masks. As of today, 11.9% of total hospitalizations are deemed COVID-19. What is taking up the other 88.1%? There are lots of things it could be, but that just shows how we are on the edge constantly with our medical system because it's a business. If they're not full, they don't make money. Also, with the COVID-19, with the PCR test, with how they're determining what is COVID and what is not. You do not have to be symptomatic to have COVID-19. You do not have to have a positive test to have COVID-19. All you need is a doctor to say, you have COVID-19, whether you test positive, have symptoms, or are under suspicion. And they're including those numbers in the DHSS daily report. So let me ask you, what is a mask? Well, according to the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA regulates face masks, including cloth face coverings and surgical masks, as medical devices when they're marked for medical purposes. Medical purposes include uses related to COVID-19, such as face masks to help stop the spread of disease, surgical masks, and surgical masks with antimicrobial, antiviral agents. Face masks marketed to the general public for non-medical purposes, such as for use in construction or other industrial application, are not medical devices. I'll read that again. The FDA regulates face masks, including cloth face coverings and surgical masks, as medical devices when they are marked for medical purposes. Medical purposes include uses related to COVID-19, such as face masks to help stop the spread of the disease. The whole purpose of the superintendent's plan for universal masking is for one thing and one thing only, to stop the spread of the disease. So you are mandating that every children, every administrator, and everybody who comes into the building wear a face mask, and none of you are doctors. And you're certainly not my doctor, and none of the children that go here.
Thank you. Next, we have Polly Carr in person. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. Need to turn it on the bottom. There it goes.
I'm actually just up here with my daughter. She actually wanted to speak tonight, and I just wanted to say thank you for creating a space where our students can actually engage with the school board and have positive dialogue. So thank you for that.
Hello, and thank you, Superintendent Dr. Bishop, Chair Bellamy, and members of the school board. My name is Cooper Karanaya, and this is my first time testifying. I am in 5th grade in the Anchorage School District. I want to thank the school board for making it possible and safe to go back to school. My first day of school was great. It made me feel safe that students and staff were wearing masks. I'm very happy that we have a great ASD. Bye, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Dustin Darden in person.
My name is Dustin My name is Dustin Darden.
Madam President, point of order.
My name is Dustin Darden.
Point of order. State your point.
I would ask the speaker to be professional and considerate of the rest of the individuals here at the meeting and at least take the shirt off of his face.
This is my face covering, sir. Can you start my time over, please, Madam President?
We have a point of order. And if you will uncover your face, you may speak to the board. And where's your mask? You need a mask.
That was my mask.
Mr. Darden, would you get Mr. Darden a mask, please?
Jesus Christ said, consider it pure joy when you go through all kinds of persecution for my name's sake. This is the kind of stuff they put on somebody's head.
Mr. Darden.
Before it's lobbed off. And now you've taken captive the entire municipality of Anchorage, all the children.
Mr. Darden, you are out of order. You need a face covering on to continue to talk, and that is not an appropriate face cover.
This is the face covering I gave in the doorway.
Question of privilege, Madam President. May we have a break?
Yes, we will. 5-minute recess. And Mr. Darden, you have lost your time to speak. You may be seated.
May God have mercy on your soul. Repent and turn to Jesus Christ.
No, you can ask me to do it, or you could request the Embry.
I'd like to call our meeting back to order, please. And we will continue with public testimony. We will add 5 minutes, which means we will go this first round until 7:15. Next, I'd like to go back up and see if in person, Anita Wright. Did Anita Wright show up yet? Okay. What about Kenneth Zehan? Kenneth Zehan. Okay. I'll go back on telephonically, Toya Brown. And what about Ashley? I think it's Mark. Okay, so she had to get the information again, so we will come back to her. All right, in person, Andrea Dolan. Andrea. How about in person, Eva Michal. Eva? Oh, that's not Eva. What about telephonically, Joan Wilson? Joan, *6 to unmute.
Hello, this is Joan Wilson. Can you hear me?
I can. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the last week of school, last May, my daughter, a 7th grader, received a text from another 7th grade student and explaining an act that no 12-year-old child should even be thinking about. Another friend's child received a photo that no 12-year-old girl should receive. Let me tell you that the school responded immediately. Counselors and security responded to the situation. But what I did learn, kind of with some confusion, was that children were not learning about proper etiquette, proper social media behavior, what not to text other students until 8th grade. I can't, I have that training up. I encourage the board and the leaders within the ASD to see the documentary Child 2.0, which explains that children, even in 5th and 6th grade, are learning things no child should have to deal with. Mm-hmm. So again, I thank my school for intervening, but I don't want my daughter to be the only one who gets relief. I want us to be protecting all our children. That is the primary thing I wanted to talk to the board about, Your Honor. Madam Chair, I did want to just add, because it's an important topic to me, please think of my daughter as an individual and not as an identity group. And please consider, as we go forward with your COVID measured protections, considering what you may be able to do to cohort students and faculty and staff who would like to consider masks an optional means of complying with COVID. At the same time, we address other safety measures. I heard a lot of statistics, but I do want to remind people there are 74.2 million children in the United States, and they are not the ones getting the sickest, and they are not transmitting it to the same degree, even with Delta variant. I will respect your decision of last week. I gave my daughter the choice about whether to go to school or not, or enroll in private school. She wanted to be with her friends, and that was enough for me. But I ask you to please consider and continue to consider, as I believe you will, when we can let our children return to childhood as soon as possible. And that kind of returns me to my initial point. Thank you for your time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to go back to the telephone with Ashley Mark. Ashley, are you there? It's *6 to unmute. I can see her. Well, I see her phone. Ashley, can you hear me? Okay.
Hello?
Yes, there you are.
Hello?
Welcome. Yes, we hear you. You have
Welcome.
3 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
I'm speaking to the school board tonight, and I'm asking for you to allow for parents' choice in masking, or at very minimum, a special needs exemption for all qualifying students. Conscientious equity for all. Our diversity is our strength. These are the words that my child's principal wrote in an email sent to parents just last week, and I wholeheartedly agree. But we cannot have equity or diversity with a school policy that marginalizes our most vulnerable students, our special needs students. Those exceptional students want and absolutely deserve the same quality education as traditional students. I fear this mask mandate will force virtual learning or isolation on a group of students who desperately need social interaction most of all. Meets the needs of the child's emotional, academic, and social needs. My principal's words again. That cannot be done through virtual learning or isolation learning. A separate but equal approach that will certainly not end equally to special needs students. If the idea of segregating and marginalizing students because of masks or the ability to wear them makes your stomach turn as much as it does mine, I implore you to look deeply and to speak for students who sometimes cannot speak for themselves. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next, in person, Lisa Aquino. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Lisa Aquino, and I am a parent here in the Anchorage School District. My background is in public health. I have my master's from Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. And I just wanted to thank you for requiring masks. I know it was a difficult decision, but in terms of the information out there, I believe it was the best decision. I also know that looking at the numbers now, there might be a possibility that there's other changes that will have to happen during the school year. I hope there's not. But I hope that you know that as a parent, I support the choices that our school board and our superintendent need to make to keep our students and our teachers the safest. So thank you for this opportunity to speak to you and for all the work you're doing.
Thank you. Next, we have Susan Reed in person. Susan? Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Susan Wingrove Reed. I'm a retired ASD music and drama teacher, 27 years, and a member of the Alaska Black Caucus Education Committee. Music teachers I work with have reported lots of joy and smiles on this first day of school, even behind the masks. I have just returned from over 9 weeks in Sitka as a faculty member for the Sitka Fine Arts Camps, middle school, high school, and musical theater. Something miraculous happened in Sitka. In addition to hundreds of kids who were thrilled to sing, dance, act, and so much more. And even though there was a frightening COVID community surge in Sitka while we were there, we did not have a single case of COVID during the camps due to high vaccination rates, but even more important, masking. Masks, even for people like me who are vaccinated, work. Thank you to the superintendent and to all of you for focusing on safety to our students, staff, and families by mandating masks as school begins. Kids understand about community and helping each other during this health crisis. We cannot afford to be divided by politics during this growing threat to young people. We must unite, being proud to be Americans and living in a democracy where we as citizens step up to do what's right for public health and each other. Masks are the basic line of defense for us all until we get through this together. We sang with masks on last spring at West and Bartlett and all of our schools. We sang in Sitka with deep breaths and masks this summer. I give an annual presentation at the camps to advocate for silenced and historically neglected voices. My recent art share featured female, Black, and Latina composers. I was so proud to tell the campers that the ASD school board passed an anti-racism and equity and curriculum policy last spring. The student response to that statement took me by surprise and brought tears to my eyes. There was prolonged applause and cheering. Students initiated many memorable chats with me for days afterwards, including their concerns about the politicization of talking about racism. Alaska students get it. They know we have to look at the past and the present with open eyes to make things better in the future. Anchorage schools are incredibly diverse. My passionate interest in social justice and in civil liberties and current events began at East High School many years ago. Thank you to the teachers of that time. And thank you for standing up for all of our students. It's time to move forward on the action plans for policies that were passed last spring. Here's hoping we can keep COVID out of our schools and our kiddos in classrooms with the teachers who care so deeply about their growth and success, and that every child is supported to blossom academically with the arts as an essential part of their journey as they discover their talents and ignite their dreams. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have time for one more this round, and that is Kenneth Wells in person. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks for seeing me. I kind of feel like the kid trying to tell everybody the emperor's got no trousers on. It doesn't make me popular. There's something I need to point out. You put a baby on the floor and it's going to make a beeline for the most ghastly thing it can find and stick it in its mouth. It's curiosity, and it's also an instinct that's purpose is to build the immune system. They have to be exposed to all the environmental pathogens that they're going to come across. Makes them stronger. I think an unintended consequence of this mandatory masking on the elementary school kids is you're going to raise, you're going to raise a whole generation of kids who are immunologically naive. It's not good. I think you all have leapt already to the conclusion that I've reached. That's what happened to the Native Americans. They encountered diseases that they'd never been exposed to before, and it killed them. You might be willing to entertain the idea of lifting the mask mandates on the elementary schools alone. The kids need to be exposed to everything that makes them stronger. Sterilizing the environment makes them weaker in the long run, and I'm not sure what the long-term consequences of that will be. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Hope you all have a great night, and thanks for listening.
Thank you. And since he was so brief, we can go to one more. Joshua Love, are you in the room? Welcome. You have 3 minutes. Either one, your choice.
Good evening. As we interact with the world these days, our experiences, thoughts, and emotions can distort our perception, limiting our ability to access our inherent wisdom and intelligence. My fear as a community member is that if we normalize the fear of the moment and our world's reaction to it, the constant drumbeat of fear, chaos, we allow anxiety to become the undercurrent of our existence. The entire paradigm has shifted and institutional wisdom with it. And it has happened at lightning speed. From the perspective, we are all in a radical new experiment of taking away liberties to deal with a virus that was known very early on to be a threat to only a small segment of the population. That population now has access to post-infection treatments, prophylactic antiviral medications, in addition to vaccines. The virus poses a risk. Yes, of course it does, but so does delaying and potentially distorting our children's development. We're running an experiment on the children of this community where we do not know what our unknown unknowns are. Prudent avoidance should not be substituted for primary science when it comes to the overall health of our kids. Doctors Marty McCary and Cody Messner, in the Case Against Masks for Children op-ed in Washington, the Wall Street Journal, August 8th, catalogs some of the harms that can be done to children by forcing them to wear a mask. In addition to physical harms, the possible psychological harm of widespread masking is an even greater worry. Facial expressions are integral to human connection, particularly to young children who are only learning how to signal fear, confusion, and happiness. Covering a child's face mutes these nonverbal forms of communication and can result in robotic and emotionless interactions, anxiety, and depression. Seeing people speak is a building block of phonetic development. This requires a bigger conversation about risk. You know that when we are parenting in the weird method, that's the Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic method, we get stuck in a current malaise of what has been described as safetyism, as described by Jonathan Haidt. Safetyism, while the interactions to protect our children are laudable, the opportunity cost that this approach might well have loses the ability to raise our kids so that they enjoy and understand natural risk, have independent thoughts, and are anti-fragile. A variety of approaches to parenthood must be an attribute of a functional culture. Please don't limit my ability to raise my child to be confident in her health and God-given immune system. Please don't teach our...
Thank you, sir. Okay, and that brings us to our superintendent update. We will continue public testimony at the very end. Dr. Bishop.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to share that today was a great start of the school day. School year rather, August 17th, 2021. And we spent the day with this great quote that we shared, focusing on the main thing, which is to keep the main thing, which is a Stephen Covey quote, but it was actually keeping our school doors open and having children attend school. So we welcomed many children to the new school year, and I wanted to share that we visited schools, had all administration out, and normal occurrences, buses late, things like that, kids looking for classes, but all in all, it was a terrific day. And we'll just take a minute to take a look at some of these pictures of our students. In addition to this, I wanted to share that as customary on day 10 of enrollment, we will shore up our we call it address verified students in our system. We'll push students forward, but we look to see where they landed. Some changed schools, changed districts. So on right after Labor Day, we'll share with the board our enrollment, and then it generally grows from that day forward to September 30th, and that's the number that we generally use. Just for some insights today, what we have unverified, we do know that we did hit the mark. Actually, this one was verified on our online. The virtual school had about 4,000 students last year. We had estimated about 25% of that would choose to remain, and we did hit that target a little over 1,000. Otherwise, we had expected 2,600 of our students who left the district last year during the pandemic to return, and we are on track with about 1,000 of those registering. Every minute that we choose to pull from our numbers from our system, there's a new enrollment being verified. So it is kind of a slippery number right now, but you will undoubtedly begin to get some emails in regard to class sizes. We are seeing certain classes and students coming back in full classrooms. So we're happy about that. But the adjustments will need to be made over these 2 weeks as students come in, because again, our teachers are placed. We try to do the minimal disruption, but they will be placed where students choose to attend. But we currently continue to give out holdback teachers, and we did reserve additional teachers this year and didn't assign them to schools until really the last minute, if you will, not understanding where students would land during the pandemic time, now that we're not doing at-home school. This last picture, just to share with you, is Greening Middle School, and that's a picture taken outside today. So that was an awesome day today. We look for many more to come. One member mentioned about health and safety. I do want to remind folks that additionally, students that are wearing masks properly don't have to immediately quarantine when they're in close contact. That will also keep our schools open. Of course, if we have symptoms, we would go home. Staff who are vaccinated can also remain in school and not quarantine. So we're happy about those things. So keeping people in school, keep schools open. Madam President, that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Dr. Bishop. Questions for the superintendent on her report? First round of questions on the report. Member Lessons.
Thank you for that report. This is really a follow-up to what you shared, and maybe you know, maybe you don't know yet, but it's my understanding that nationally, this entering class of kindergartners is expected to be larger than last year's. Do you have any sense of what this entering group of kindergartners is going to look like, and are we adequately prepared to meet that potential demand?
That's a great question. And one of the reasons for that is that many parents last year didn't want the pandemic year or the at-home learning to be the first experience for their children's kindergarten. So they elected to keep them out of school another year. Our kindergarten officially starts a week from today. And so we continue to have registrations this week. And many of our families really don't realize, even though we have a way to communicate globally to our community through siblings, but many parents, until they see a school bus, realize, oh, I should get, down to the school. So we're collecting that, but next week or even later this week in the Board Connect, I can just share some numbers if we're seeing larger numbers in kindergarten. We are going to have a problem district-wide, actually, in just regard to hiring, very similar to other positions, entry-level positions. Nationally, there is a teacher shortage, and this time didn't assist with that. So although we do have some positions open now, both in special education and general education, there aren't qualified applicants that can fill those. So we are brainstorming, looking at things, reaching out to eligible people who can return to us, who have retired, and contacting our local university and seeing how many mid-year graduates we have. But either way, whether it's more students or not, we're already in a little bit of a bind in regard to hiring.
Okay, other questions for Dr. Bishop? Member Jacobs and then Donnelly.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Bishop, could you let us know how things are going in terms of processing requests to deviate from the masking policy for health and special education reasons? Is there a backlog of those requests, or are we up to date on those?
Through the president to Member Jacobs, actually, we don't have a backlog. The process is like any other medical, when kids, don't want to work out in PE, they see their nurse, they provide the information, but there is not a backlog that I was aware of today. I actually worked through a mask issue when I had just been out of school. So there shouldn't be, and we can certainly address those if parents feel as though they brought something in and they didn't get a response.
Thank you.
Okay, Member Donnelly.
Thank you, Madam President. On that same vein, have there been any requests for exemption of the mandatory mask policy by people with special needs that have had physician, where a physician has opined that they should not be required to wear a mask?
We don't have many of those. I know that we do have some, and we work, it's not necessarily not to wear a mask at all. It is to, sometimes with an IEP, to build up to limiting time in a mask, to build up the competency or the capacity to be able to wear a mask. And we have life skills students that are in that boat. Really, we have not had very many medical doctors outside of students that we already knew of on IEPs from last year and different 504s that have come forward. What we do is work with our staff to find a suitable mask that would fit differently. Where's the problem with the breathing? There's many different types of fits that we work with them.
Did you have a follow-up, Mr. Donnelly? You good?
I had a second question, but I was waiting.
Oh, your second question. Yes. Member Wilson.
Is there a way to identify students that did not enroll in the school district last year that were in ASD prior to that? That also we did not receive requests for transfer, transcripts. Is there some way to identify those students? My understanding is there's some students that didn't return to ASD last year, and some educators were concerned that they were not being educated, and ideally they'll be returning this year. Is there a way to identify those students?
Through the chair to Member Wilson, are you saying last year's students or this year's students?
Is there a way to identify the students that did not enroll last year that returned this year that were enrolled the previous year? So
yes,
basically that were not here last year.
That 10-day drop where we shore up the numbers that we rolled over from one year to the next and verify them with processed registrations. We can do that after 10 days to kind of really take a look. We not only can do that, but once the count period happens, we can actually tell you where they went. But that is later again in October. So there is a single identification number in the state of Alaska called an OASIS number that they fund students. Every student has one. It's a state number, and we can then know where they are or if they just did not come back at all and there weren't any requests. Right now, in the school, they're taking registrations constantly. One of the other impacts of having a solid number this early is prior to this time, we we had in-person registration for all new students, kindergarten, others as well, changes. We wanted them to come to the school. We have utilized some online innovations to be able to register. And so where we are in some schools, as opposed to others, we don't know if that's just the availability of having access to a computer to register, and others have to go in. So we're really holding off on taking any guesses and moving students. But to your primary question, absolutely we can understand where they are, or if they're just not anywhere. We do call folks that we expect to come back but don't, but many times the phone number is no longer in order. So we do our best in our due diligence to find children, but many times if there isn't a forwarding number or a request for records, we wouldn't know. And that consequently comes into count for your dropout numbers. All those are part of that.
Okay, Member Holloman, any questions? Member Higgins? Okay, we can circle back around. Member Jacobs, any questions, any follow-up? We're back to you, Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you, Madam President. On the issue of promotion or retention and the board policy that was adopted, if the parents feel that a child needs to be retained, but the principal of the school disagrees, what is the parents' options at that point?
Through the president to Member Donnelly, they can appeal that and come forward. And I have been supporting, especially after this pandemic year, the choice of parents to be able to really assess where they want their children. Similar to holding children out an extra year. A lot of parents want an additional year because their students either weren't engaging, didn't feel as though they progressed well. So I have been supporting the retention in a grade level if it's supported by the student and parent as they come and request.
Thank you.
The questions for the superintendent? Member Lessons.
Great, thanks. I know that there are going to be, over the first month or so of school, a whole battery of, an array of assessments for our students to figure out where they're at and get those benchmarks. What will ASD be doing in any concerted fashion to promote student mental health, physical health, taking advantage of outside time in a time of COVID? We've heard so much about student social and emotional well-being, being together. Is there a little bit of an extra nudge to provide students with a little bit more of that, kind of like some of the enhancements in the summer learning opportunities? Is that at all a part of this return to school focus?
Actually, our school days are comprehensive and we have all of our specials. In fact, we did an assessment of assessments, if you will, and less than 2% of student time is with state or even NAEP adding in there. It's about 1.6% of their time. For the information that you got. All of our schools do participate in social emotional practices, where students get to dialogue and talk with each other, do activities. Certainly outdoors is encouraged now. We generally like to get outside before the weather gets bad. But I would say that that's actually part of our programs already. And this summer, what we wanted to do was we added those things into the summer to get back to them from prior years, because during the in time in school, we didn't have different teachers teaching those. We kept kids in cohorts in their rooms, and their classroom teacher, if you would do the art and other things. And so in the summer, we brought in specialists to be able to engage students. So our engagement of students with electives and courses are really back. They have a full schedule.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Bishop. That moves us now to our consent agenda.
Madam President, I move to approve the consent agenda as listed on the main agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve this consent agenda as listed. Are there any board members in opposition to that approval? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. Moving on to item G. See public testimony on action items. When we will, if you are here to provide public testimony on any action item, you will do it at the time the item, right before the item is discussed.
Madam President, I move to approve ASD memorandum number 010, the reallocation of funds in the amount of $8,500,000 to cover the deficit incurred in the Student Nutrition Fund.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. It's been moved and second that we approve memorandum number 010. Is there any first of all, is there a public testimony on that item? Not seeing any public testimony. Is there any opposition? The motion before you is to approve memorandum 010. Oh, the online voting is available if you are hooked up. If not, we'll take your voice vote. I'm a yes, Katie. Please vote. Just give Katie your vote if you're okay. Did everybody vote? Okay. Thank you. All members have voted. And that passes 7 yeas, 0 nays. Thank you. Next item.
Madam President, I move to approve Anchorage School District Memorandum number 014, modifications to the previously adopted Anchorage School Board goals and guardrails outlined in this memorandum.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to testify on memorandum number 014? Come forward, please. You may begin. You have 3 minutes.
Oh, there we go. Thank you once again to the board for having me here. My name is Danielle Kemp. I am an ASD teacher and a parent of 2 ASD students, as well as the president and co-founder of the Alaska Coalition of BIPOC Educators. And I want to testify in support of this action item. I believe that the expanded goals and guardrails are a move in the right direction, especially in light of its recent addition of its diversity effort. I would highly encourage the board to continue to move forward ever more in that direction of increasing diversity and empowering that diversity, and not just to speak to it, but to put some meat behind those words. All right, so thank you very much, and yes, thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you. The motion before the body is to approve memorandum number 014. It's been moved in second. Is there any opposition to the motion?
May I make a motion?
Sure.
Okay. I move that the board amends the goals to include the following new goal. I know that we've had a discussion already, but here we go. Beginning September 2019, the percentage of entering kindergarten students consistently meeting all 13 goals outlined on the Alaska Developmental Profile will increase from 18.24% to TBD by May of 2026.
Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
So the motion, you have to
read. Oh, I've got my paper in triple.
So the motion is to add a goal.
The motion would be to add a goal with the particular verbiage.
And you may speak to your motion.
Great, thank you. So in the Alaska Developmental Profile, which all kindergartners, to my understanding, and maybe a few first graders take every fall, students are assessed for whether they are consistently demonstrating 13 goals and indicators in the following 5 domains. These are from Alaska's early learning guidelines: physical well-being, health, motor development, social and emotional development, approaches to learning, cognition and general knowledge, communication, language, and literacy. Specific markers of kindergarten readiness include large muscle and small muscle strength and coordination, participates positively in group activities, regulates feelings and impulses, shows curiosity and interest in learning new things and having new experiences, sustains attention to tasks and persists when facing challenges, demonstrates knowledge of numbers and counting, sorts, classifies, and organizes objects, uses receptive communication skills, uses expressive communication skills, demonstrates phonological awareness, demonstrates awareness of print concepts, demonstrates knowledge of letters and symbols. The developmental profile was not administered last year. In the 2019 to 2020 year, Anchorage students who were assessed were 18.24% of those students demonstrated mastery of all 13 competencies. The year before, it was a little bit higher at 19.28%. I support adding this goal to the other 3 goals because it commits ASD's time and resources in promoting kindergarten readiness, which in turn will directly support each of the other 3 goals in reading, in math, and sort of life readiness. It aligns with community values identified in the community input table that we were all familiarized with, which includes self-sufficiency, communication skills, SEL skills, mental and physical health, so on and so forth. And I think it positions ASD to capitalize on the likely expansion for early childhood supports from both the state and federal government.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Member Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam President. So I guess a point of information from Member Lessons. Have you vetted the new goal with the administration? And if so, what was their response?
No, I have not vetted this with anybody. Okay. I'm presenting it here for the first time for all of you and all of them.
Sure.
And I recognize that this comes on the heels of 12-ish hours that we put in over the summer of assessing the goals and guardrails, and I respect the time that everybody put into that. This is just something that speaks to all of the other 3 goals. And what I didn't see in those other 3 goals is a focus on kindergarten readiness, which is part of our preschool programming.
Okay, thank you.
Can I follow up, Madam
Can you
President?
follow up with your question?
Yep,
and
thank
then
you. So,
Member Holloman.
So having heard that, and I mean, I certainly support our youngest learners, and I think there's clearly Member Lessons is familiar with this data. I am leery about engaging in a conversation knowing the administration hasn't had a chance to review and properly brief us as to its effects. And so, although since we have other members in the queue, I won't proceed with the motion to table, but I would, at some point, I'll propose that we table this until our second meeting in September at the very least, so we can have a work session and further discuss.
We'll go to Member Holloman, and then I think I saw Dr. Bishop's hand.
Okay. I was just going to say that if I'm correct, our funding from the state district K-12, and that we do every bit of pre-K we can, federal money, grants, and other things. So the question is, with this, and I guess really I'd be making it to the administration, to meet this goal, would this mean taking K-12 funds to put in pre-K, and is that even something we would be allowed to do?
Dr. Bishop.
Through the president to Member Holloman, that was actually going to be my comments. Although we understand that we have to affect pre-K to be successful in reading, we are doing outreach and other things. So we are engaging in this. This is part of our reading plan. Our preschool director is on the reading planning board that we have for this goal. However, our funding is not given. We do not count average daily membership of a child that's in pre-K unless they have an IEP. We do expend title funds to run pre-Ks but that is a choice in our plan because we know that is funding that we would like to do. This doesn't necessarily mean we need to have pre-Ks. It's saying that, do something to increase kindergarten readiness is when they first come to us. And as a school district, while that is our interest, and I think it is a worthy cause, I would ask the board at the 11th hour from where would you like out of your budget that has already been passed and implemented and hired, where in that budget would you like me to then take the funds to redirect them to this goal?
Thank you. Member Holloman, were you done? All right, Member Wilson.
I wanted to say that I do support pre-K wholeheartedly for all of our students, but for us to implement a goal when all schools do not support pre-K at this time, I don't see how that could, how we could consistently achieve the goal if we don't have the opportunities at this current time to educate students at the pre-K level.
Thank you very much. Member Higgins.
That's right. Is that okay? Yeah. I appreciate this motion for a number of reasons. I think back in the past where at one time we were never going to expand career technology until they gave us money. But until we had a plan to present to them, we weren't going to get the resources with it. We didn't know what it would cost. We didn't know what the options were and how we might go about it. And so by coming out and saying we want to go, we have a goal, we want something done, let's come up with a plan. That's the first step towards getting the resources and the first step towards developing some options that we may have that may prove to be very inexpensive. I've seen this in other school districts. I've seen options they've done that have been very interesting. They provided resources in schools for parents to come in just to have access to go through a program without providing the preschool, but they provided it. There were tablet opportunities here for relatively cost. We've got some surplus funds right now with the federal. We've got some options we could at least be discussing in line with this. I like the idea of tabling this to get into a discussion with the administration as to how we might be able to word this and the like. But I think it's an important goal. I think we've got to do something. We recognize this is a major problem. The number of students coming into kindergarten that are not ready for kindergarten is huge. And this is at least raising the point that says we need to take the steps to say this is important, which is a goal, and we would like to achieve it. And then we work with all the various parameters. I don't know what the cost is. No one does. If the idea is that we have to have the money, but nobody knows what it is, we will never go anywhere. We will die before we start. So I support this, but I think the best approach recommended by Member Jacobs is to table this at this point, then come back to it so we can have the administration provide us, some ideas and suggestions on alternatives here.
Thank you, Member Higgins. Let's see, Mr. Donnelly, Member Donnelly.
This is a pretty significant proposal. I was just wondering if we could have 2 or 3 minutes. I just wanted to look something up.
Are you asking for a recess?
Yeah, I'm just asking for 2 or 3 minutes.
Recess granted. Be back in 5 minutes. Exactly. That's true.
But also, I think we've increased by 26 pre-Ks in 5 years.
Oh,
we
yeah.
are pretty good. And this is
Yeah.
not
Just doing
because
anything.
it's not written, isn't that what- and that's the discussion.
Hi, sir. How are you? I'm sorry. No, I'm not. No.
Is Dora? Are you the Eagle representative?
Okay. We are almost back in order. I'm missing one board member. Dora. We'll wait for Dora. Okay, we are now back in order. So the motion before the body is an amendment to the goals by adding a fourth goal. Beginning September 2019, the percentage of entering kindergarten students consistently meeting all 13 outlined on the Alaska Developmental Profile will increase from 18.24% to a percent to be determined by May 2026. That motion was made by Kelly Lesson, second by Carl Jacobs. And we are ending discussion. So we are back. I think I left off with Member Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move to table the motion until our September 21st meeting.
Point of order, Madam President.
Yes.
This is an amendment to a motion. I don't believe you can table an amendment.
Oh,
right. We have to vote it up or vote it down.
So appointment from Member Lessons made a primary motion to amend an existing ASD document. I think that's something that can be postponed, but I would defer to the president.
Yeah, it's an amendment to the motion that's on the floor. We opened the motion, which was the adoption.
So we are discussing the motion now. So we need to vote it up or vote it down before we entertain a table. That is of the main motion is to adopt the goals. The amendment to that is what we're working on now. So we have to vote the amendment up or down.
And then we could table the motion itself.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Can we table it?
No, we have to, I think the safest way for us to do this, guys, is to vote the amendment up or down. And then we come back. And then we come back to the main motion, right? Now, I mean, she could withdraw her motion, but that would be entirely up to her. All right. All right, so the amendment before you now, I just read it. It will add a third goal. Fourth, I'm sorry. I got 3 on the brain. So we'll go, I'll call for the vote. So you should be able to. Is everybody clear what they're voting on? Okay, so a yes vote would add a fourth goal, would amend the main motion by adding a fourth goal. A no leaves it like it is.
Madam President, prior to our vote, I would suggest that perhaps in lieu of voting on this now, Member Lessons, it might be advisable to withdraw your motion so that we can postpone the primary one, if that's the best way to proceed via Robert's rules. And that way we're not voting on this up or down tonight.
Okay.
Okay, out of deference to the whites of your eyes, I will withdraw this motion with fingers crossed that we can table the primary motion for further discussion.
Thank you, Member Lessons. That the motion has been withdrawn at this point. So we are back to the main motion, which is ASD memorandum number number 014 to accept our goals and guardrails as published. Presented.
Madam President, I would ask that we table, or I would move that we table the primary motion to accept the goals and guardrails until our September 21st meeting.
Second.
Okay, I guess I have a point of order. Right now, the goals have already been adopted, right? Except for a grammatical change in it. This motion is actually addressing that grammatical change. We have already adopted our goals. Now, we have the privilege of adding a goal in the future, but right now we are only voting on that grammatical change that we made. If you look at the memo, these goals have already been adopted, guys.
Madam President, you're correct. I'll withdraw my motion. Thank you.
Member Donnelly.
Madam President, I guess this would be a procedural question. I would think that the main motion is still before us to table, even if it's a technical change, and it would preserve its position in the queue, sort of, to do so by the motion that was offered. I believe the motion that was offered isn't actually to adopt the goals, it's to table the goals adoption. It's to table the motion before us, which is the memorandum, adopting the memorandum. So I believe it is.
No, we can continue, Mr. Donnelly. I'm sorry.
So I think what Member Jacobs was moving was to table the memorandum and to a time certain, and I do believe that's in order.
But the memorandum addresses a grammatical change, one grammatical change. It does not address the goal itself.
That's why the motion's to table the memorandum and not to table the adoption of the goals. Memorandum's what's before us. So the actual motion is to table the voting on the memorandum until a time certain. And I believe that's in order.
Member Wilson, and then Holloman, and then Higgins.
Just point of clarification. If we choose to move forward with voting on memorandum 014, we could still potentially address the fourth goal that Member Lessons is proposing at the following meeting, correct?
Yeah, at the appropriate time, yes. Member Holloman.
And I was going to basically say the same thing. The proposed amendment doesn't actually address any of the changes that are in this amendment to our goals. And so whether or not we pass this or don't pass this really doesn't have any impact on the ability of a member to bring an amendment to our goals at any time later. In the same way, we're essentially amending our goals tonight. If we pass this, we can have another proposal at a later meeting to amend them again. If the proposed amendment was integral to the language in this amendment, it would make sense to wait. But because the proposed amendment really doesn't address anything that's in this amendment, I would suggest the thing to do is for people to vote their conscience on this amendment to our goals tonight, and an amendment to our goals in general can be brought as a freestanding issue and not entangled in language that really doesn't have anything to do with it anyway, if that makes sense.
Okay. Member Higgins.
Yeah, it's getting confusing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the only thing I'm looking for is that we get a clear understanding that we're going to have this come up again in the second meeting in September. We want to make sure there's a process that I realize that the superintendent and the board president set the agenda, and we want to make sure this is there. So if we voted to delay it, then it would make it automatic. Otherwise, we have to make sure the process allows us to do that. And that's what I'm concerned about. I just want to make sure that this is going to be able to come up the second meeting in September, and that superintendent's aware of it now so that she can be prepared for discussion.
Correct. And board, you might remember that we had already planned a work session on kindergarten, pre-K updates. We decided to use that time for an executive session, which we needed to do. So I don't think anybody's against having a further discussion. It's just that we need more information. And so that's where I'm coming from. And as far as, yes, the superintendent and I do the agenda based on impact from the board and based on the things that we have to, that you bring forth and things that are our legal responsibility. So we are back to, okay, were you done, Mr. Higgins, I think? Yeah? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Madam President, I just want to be clear. I withdrew, with Member Higgins' permission, my motion to table, so we're back at the main motion.
Right. So we are back to the main motion. We will vote it up or down. So get ready to vote. Number 014. If you don't have your computer up, you need to give Katie a, oh, okay. Is it up? All right, main motion passes. 7 yeas, 0 nay. 7 yeas, no nays. Okay. So the next piece, I'm sorry, Mr.
Madam President, I move to approve ASD memorandum number 015 and affirm the superintendent's adoption of the corresponding interim goals and interim guardrails, which correspond to the adopted board goals and guardrails.
Second.
It's been motioned in second to accept. Is there any public testimony on memorandum 015? Come forward. You have 3 minutes.
Take all that much time. Thank you for the board once again. My name is Danielle Kemp, and I would like to offer the ACBE's full support of the interim goals and guardrails. I did make a mistake testifying on behalf of the grammatical correction, so I should have been testifying in favor of this one, but here we are nonetheless. So yes, I'm testifying in favor. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, please vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that's the end of our action items. And now we're down to non-action items. Is there anybody want to pull a non-action item? They will be back at the next meeting, so you will still have an opportunity to address them. Okay, seeing none. We're now moving down to finish up our public testimony. You guys are great for holding on. All right, so our next person, in person, Ellison Hazen or Hazen? Hazen. Ellison, I'll come back. Telephonically, let's try Brittany Francis. I'm not seeing Brittany, but she might come back on. I'll keep checking. In person, Sandy Thompson Wallace. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, school board, Dr. Bishop, and the ASD team. I am Sandy Thompson Wallace, president of Totem Association of Educational Support Personnel, and a long-time Anchorage School District employee. This year, I'm celebrating my 25th year with the district. During that time, I've held many positions, both in the classroom as a paraeducator and in the school office as an administrative assistant and registrar. I have made this district my career, and until recently, have always thought of the Anchorage School District as a great place to work, as it gave me the opportunity to work with children and adults, the best of both worlds, in my opinion. For those who don't know what role Totem employees perform within this district, let me give you just a brief rundown. We are the second largest bargaining unit within the district, employing approximately 1,250 to 1,300 people, and we fill approximately 65 job roles within the district. We work side by side with our certificated teaching staff in classrooms as tutors and paraeducators. We work in school offices and departments as administrative assistants, secretaries, and registrars. We are the wheels that help keep this district moving forward. We are the employees that you count on to fill in or are the backup for the school nurse, the classroom teacher, noon duties, and a myriad of other positions you either cannot fill due to a lack of substitutes or lack of applicants. While recruitment is important, so is retention of those employees who train and mentor our newer employees. Employees are resigning and retiring at an alarming rate, and we believe it is vital to retain and recognize those employees who have been there supporting this district for more than 10 years, or like myself, well over 20. They all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, and most especially deserve a living wage. They should not have to work 2 jobs or find other employment in the summer just to get by and yet still qualify for government assistance to put food on the table, all while working for this district. Are you aware that as a high school graduate who gets hired to be a facilities maintenance helper starts at $23 an hour, while those employees who work with our most precious resource, our children, start at $14.87. That represents a 9-month employee working 6 to 7 hours a day. This is not a living wage. My ask to you today is keep the money at the closest point of the pencil where it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Brenda Boudreau in person. Brenda? I don't see Brenda. I'll check back on. Next, telephonically, we have Don Bockelman. Don, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Don Bockelman. I'm a teacher and a parent, and I wanted to start by echoing Mr. Kemp's joy that he expressed earlier. When I left at the end of today, my heart was also full, and I felt so grateful for every child and family whose lives they get to be a part of this year. It was absolutely wonderful, and I think things really went off as best as they possibly could. But I want to talk about what I saw rather than just what I felt. I saw kids taking impeccable care of their masks today. Their families have trained them well, and I was grateful for that. But I also saw kids with no masks at lunch and recess, and kids with masks in very close proximity to each other all day for various really good reasons. I wanted to point out that I personally feel like we're totally kidding ourselves if we're operating under the assumption that masks are stopping a virus, but pretending like all of the things that I saw and are going on in every school are exempt instances. It all seems very contradicting, and I'm not advocating that those instances where they get to be maskless be taken away, but it is contradicting, and it's very hard to take the decision to mask children seriously because of that. Next, I wanted to talk about how families, parents, and staff were asked not to be political about this situation during this time. And while policy and politics are different things, they are both intertwined. So if we're being asked not to share our opinions, then I would prefer that be said, because you can't separate politics from policy. And I'm having a hard time seeing how our freedom is not a political matter. Lastly, I also witnessed you guys asking for civility, which I really appreciate. I do agree that we should be having a civil gathering and sharing of ideas. But I'm having a hard time understanding, again, how clapping is uncivil, especially when no personal attacks were called for. And it was enforced in some people, but not in a couple of other speakers who personally attacked the actions of last meeting without consequence. So I'll keep it short. I just wanted to ask again for you guys to reconsider the mask mandate and leave mask wearing up to personal choice for the parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, telephonically, Ashley Gaines. Star
Hey,
six. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. First, I want to say kudos to you guys on the mask mandate and keeping not only our children safe, but our educators safe, as my mom is one of those people who works in the school district and is an older person that's susceptible to COVID. But first, I want to say good evening, Superintendent Bishop, school board members. I'm here to testify tonight in support of the Fairview Elementary being renamed for a great pioneer of education. Dr. Adelja Davis. She was hired as the first Black teacher and principal in the Anchorage School District in 1957. And I believe in I believe in giving people their flowers while they're alive, but Dr. Davis is no longer here with us. So I would like to encourage the school board and our community to support renaming Fairview Elementary after Dr. Adelja Davis, who was a great pioneer of education and trailblazer and had a passion for educating our students in the Anchorage School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, telephonically, we have Andrea Antoine. Andrea Antoine. Oh, she's in person. Okay, come forward. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Were this or?
Yes.
Good evening to Superintendent Bishop, President Bellamy, and all the members of the school board. Try not to be emotional, but I can't. I was going to speak. First, I want to speak, of course, in support of Fairview Elementary being renamed in honor of my mom. And I want to thank you for even, sorry, so I'm an emotional person. I was less emotional until I heard all the talk about the mask wearing. The reason why is because my mom passed away from COVID. And so mask wearing is real. COVID is real. And I want to thank you for standing up for the kids, for everyone else so that we can not lose any more people. And I think that mask wearing is important. And I thank you, Superintendent Bishop, for standing up even in all this adversity. Again, I want to speak on behalf of renaming Fairview Elementary School in honor of my mom. She was a trailblazer, a pioneer, and she deserves the honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Dexter Antoine. Is Dexter here in the foyer? I'll come back. Okay. Okay, I'll come back to Dexter. What about, is Ellison Hazen? They're gone? Okay, thank you. And what about Brittany Francis? We are now to Dustin Sherman. Dustin Sherman. Okay. Kirsten Marchant. There she is. Welcome, Kirsten. You have 3 minutes. Either one, your choice.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Kirsten Marchant, and I am a community member here in Anchorage and a mother of 6 beautiful children. I'm here to discuss the current mask mandate and ask that you carefully consider instead allowing mask choice for our children. I didn't bring them here to testify next time. They're very cute. In February of 2020, the chief medical officer of the state of Alaska, Dr. Zink, stated, "A mask is a wet, moist environment that's collecting viruses and bacteria. It's not useful to protect you from other people." That was before this topic was politicized, and her stance has since changed, and with no new science. In fact, if you read the fine print on most consumer masks, you will see something along the line of not intended for medical purposes and has not been tested to reduce the transmission of disease. The SARS-CoV-2 virus has a diameter of 60 to 140 nanometers, 1 billionth of a meter. Non-medical face masks thread diameter ranges from 55 to 440 micrometers, which is more than 100 times larger. The virus can easily pass through this mask. It is not helping. The CDC and the NIH performed a study on masks, only one, and their findings were inconclusive. Can you imagine if they were found to be only 1% effective? That would be ran with so far and so fast. Stories of all the children that lives could be saved would be used to shame the rest of us into submission. But we aren't following the science, and we haven't been for a while. An article in the New England Journal of Medicine stated, "Wearing a mask outside healthcare facilities offers little, if any, protection from infection, and the desire for widespread masking is a reflexive reaction to anxiety over the pandemic." Italy has had high levels of mask wearing despite no national mandate. Recently, skyrocketing cases finally compelled them to create one of the strictest mask laws in the world, but the results have predictably failed and slowed to rise coronavirus cases. In fact, they've skyrocketed immediately. I have stacks of study, you guys, all valid. I've never researched more in my life, all thorough, but hear my heart. To the mothers afraid, I get it, I do. But each of us is trying to do the best for our children. You trust that I do my best to feed and care for my kids, and I do, to the best of my ability. But just let me. Masks are hurting our kids psychologically, especially. 93% of communication is nonverbal. And for my kids not to be masked at school is no different than you bringing your kids to the grocery store and passing mine in the aisle. Why aren't we working together? Why aren't we problem solving? Please consider making it optional, considering allowing me to have my choice for my body, my child's choice. I'm having to ask for autonomy over my own body. And I'm concerned that you aren't listening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Reverend Matthew Schultz. Okay, I don't see Reverend Schultz. In person, Rachel Griffiths. Is Rachel here? Yes. Do we need to put your mic up? You want it to stand, right? Why don't you put it on top of that might be better. Yes. Is that better than
that
sitting?
works.
Okay.
Do I have to wear my mask?
Yes.
Okay. So, is the time started?
We'll start now.
Okay. Rochelle Griffiths, parent of a former ASD student. An ASD student shared that at circle time, the children were asked what they are looking forward to most. Many students replied, taking off their mask when they go home. The social and emotional needs of children who are masked are being ignored. How about ask the children how they feel about masks before you make a decision? The universal mask policy creates a depressing prisoner-type feel within ASD schools.
If a student chooses to wear a mask or not wear a mask, their choice should be honored. Consider yielding back your stance to force all ASD students, teachers, staff, and volunteers to wear masks. Out in the community, people are free to wear a mask or not wear a mask, and they are happy and content. However, ASD is forcing everyone who enters their premises to wear a mask. This is simply not right. During the Spanish flu of 1918, when people were wearing masks for an extended period, the people started to die from bacterial pneumonia. Wearing a mask all day is not healthy. In February of 2020, Dr. Zink wrote this: "A mask is a wet, moist environment that's collecting viruses and bacteria. It's not useful to protect you from other people." Even Dr. Fauci himself said in his leaked emails that masks do not work. So why did these so-called respected doctors change their tune? I suggest that ASD board be made up of at least half conservatives and half progressives, so that both perspectives can be shared and the best possible solutions can be made. The middle ground for conservatives and progressives is mask choice. If you will not consider this, I ask you, why not? In an intelligent, respectful society, all people's opinions are valued and all thoughts are brought to the table. Both sides of an argument are heard and both sides come together to meet and discuss. That is how to best take care of the entire community and no one feels left out. Do not disregard the parents who pay taxes and want to have a choice on whether or not to have their children wear a medical device on their faces. All parents need love and support from the community members and people who are in leadership positions. That way their children can learn and grow in a stress-free environment and be able to thrive. Do you support children's well-being? I sure hope so. That is our expectation of you. It is discriminatory to those students who cannot wear a mask and who do not want to wear a mask. Stop discriminating against these students. Instead, give honor, care, and attention to the families of Anchorage. I suggest you declare an education emergency if you cannot protect the rights and health of all students in the district.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, telephonically, we have Rosa Foster. Ms. Foster is *6 to unmute.
Did I do it?
Yes, you did. You have 3 minutes.
Oh. Okay, thank you. Good evening. To the superintendent, Dr. Dina Bishop, school board president, Mrs. Margot Bellamy, members of Anchorage School District Board. My name is Mrs. Rosa Foster, and I am a retired elementary school principal of Anchorage School District. I arrived in Anchorage 60 years ago this year, April 1961, and began teaching at Fairview in the fall of '61. I also taught at Abbott Loop and Rabbit Creek. I interned principal at Orion on Elmendorf and Arcturus on Fort Richardson, and also interned at Rabbit Creek. I became a principal at Huffman Elementary, and then I went on to Ursa Minor on Fort Richardson, and then on to Fairview, my final school as principal. So I have been in the district in my education tenure in the Anchorage School District from 1961 to 1987. I met Ethelda, known as Phil, in 1961 when we first arrived in Anchorage. We had lived around the corner from each other. She was already a teacher here, and I was a new teacher in Anchorage. She was such a wonderful mentor and friend. We traveled together and served as friends from 1961 to 2020. She demonstrated wonderful teaching skills and abilities until I wanted her to share those skills and abilities with my kids, if possible. And as time went on, she did become my daughter's 4th grade teacher at Airport Heights. After years in elementary schools, Phil continued up the ladder of success in education and soon became an elementary principal and served as principal in Ptarmigan and John F. Kennedy on Fort Richardson before retiring. As she progressed in the field of education, her love for children and teens was broadening. I recall her taking teenagers on special trips overseas several times. She was very instrumental in the founding of Alaska Coalition to Prevent Shoplifting. In this program, if kids were caught shoplifting, they had to attend mandatory classes on Saturdays. She continued extending her gifts, her talents, her abilities, and love in this community. This became evident by the way she became involved in various other community projects. She became a crime prevention specialist. This entailed partnering with the city police. Phil was also involved in the beginning of the Neighborhood Watch program. With all of the outstanding experiences, talents, gifts, innovations, and love shown and given to the children, young adults, and the general community of Anchorage.
Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you very much. Next, we have Francine Reuter. Francine, are you? She should be online. I don't see her. Let's move on to Rochelle Pesetto. Okay. Telephonically. Yes. Rochelle?
Oh, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thanks. Superintendent and school board members, thank you for your willingness to serve in a position that takes a lot of criticism and to stand for what is right for our children. I urge you to prevent any effort to require mask wearing of children. Children have been repeatedly shown not to be drivers of this contagion. It is well accepted that children have a statistically zero chance of dying from COVID. The CDC shows that K through 12's mortality rate from or with COVID is 0.00003. Since children have the lowest death rate from COVID infection, the cost benefit of requiring children to wear a face covering is especially difficult to justify. There is a lack of official recognition in the media or in government reports of all the effects of this continuous wearing of masks, regardless of the consequences. This particularly concerns children and adolescents whose brains, especially emotional and relational brains, are in full development. Children depend largely on facial expressions to understand and apprehend their environment. Hiding the lower half of the face diminishes the ability to communicate, interpret, and imitate the expressions of those who come in contact with. Positive emotions become less recognizable and negative emotions are amplified. Emotional mimicry, contagion, and emotionality in general are reduced, as well as teacher-student bonding, group cohesion, and learning, of which emotions are a major driver. Face masks prevent the mirroring of facial expressions, a process that facilitates empathetic connections and trust between pupils and teachers. Numerous studies and articles show this potentially leads to a significant increase in socio-psychological stress. You care more about what my children put on their face than about having them in school and educating them. It is not your responsibility to protect my children from anything, and it is not their responsibility to protect anyone else. If the district would not require, but strongly recommend masks, it would allow parents to make the choice that best supports the psychological well-being, growth, and development of their children. Please reconsider ASD's decision to have students wear masks this school year. Please allow mask wearing to be a choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Wanda Green, telephonically. I'm not seeing her in the queue. Moving on to Jared Dunbar, in person. Jared? Welcome, sir. You have 3 minutes.
I'll try to get through this. I got a few thoughts.
Okay,
few thoughts typed up here.
There you go.
I'm Jared Dunbar, I'm an Anchorage resident. Me and my wife own a couple properties here.
You can sit that down on the desk.
Okay. We pay property taxes here. My daughter's a graduate of ASD. She's now working as RN. My wife's a RN for 20 years. Anyways, my few comments I have today is on masking children and mandating that against some parents' choice. I'm not opposed to masking as an individual choice, I'm also not opposed to vaccination as an individual choice. What I am opposed to is the notion that all private citizen voices should be disregarded in favor of government agency. I've listened to doctors from the Mayo Clinic, Harvard, Stanford. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. If masks being mandated, you believe that they help. What I am saying is that it's still up for discussion, in my opinion. I've spoken to many doctors. I've looked at many doctors online, and to say that that the discussion is settled, I don't think that's true. I think there's still a lot of questions out there, and I'm a little wary of mandates when there's still so many questions out there. For every medical article that I can find opposing masks, I'm sure you can find one that supports masks. That doesn't prove anything to me, but that the discussion is not settled within the medical community. I would argue that if it was important to hear from the parents, why wasn't a questionnaire sent to the parents of the 42,000 students over the entire summer? Why was the mask mandate communicated just days before the start of the school year as parents scramble to find new schools or come up with funding because they may disagree with the masking? I understand that the job is tough, but I also believe that is one of the greatest honors to serve other people, and one should pride themselves making tough decisions while under duress, especially when doing so to the benefit of those you are charged to serve. A comment was made about a lawsuit towards the school district, specifically towards the people politicizing masks and calling them guilty of theater. I'm one of the first people to donate to that fund. When those comments were made, they weren't talking about a group of people. They were talking about me, someone they don't know, someone they've never had a conversation with. If we disagree, it shouldn't be political. It shouldn't be a theater. It should be we just disagree. We should have a discussion. Last meeting, it was stated that we are not fundamentally a free society, and I understand the sentiment of that comment. Mask wearing was compared to driving down the left side of the road on a one-way road. I believe those risks are not comparable. And lastly, I'll just close with this comment. I really want to just open the topic for discussion. I think everybody's so sure of themselves, and I think there's still room for discussion. I am convinced through studying and personal experience that freedom of thought and the ability to freely express those thoughts is the crux of a free civilization, and most likely the greatest freedom known to mankind. One of the greatest people alive today, United States Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, stated in his own...
Thank you, sir. Your time is up. Thank you. Next, we have Steve Davis in person. Oh, I'm sorry, telephonic? Oh, he's not in the queue. I'll come back up. In person, we have Takeda Parker. Welcome, you have 3 minutes.
Hello and good evening. My name is Takeda Parker. I am the membership chair for the Alaska Black Caucus and a member of the Alaska Black Caucus Education Committee. I am also a healthcare professional, part-time on call at Providence Medical Center. My mother, Beulah Pondoria Kelly, went on to heaven on October 24, 2020. My mother passed away due to COVID-19 complications. Superintendent Bishop, I want to thank you for your stand on the mask mandate. I appreciate your willingness to not have your decision waver from the backlash you received from the community. But I also ask, as a healthcare professional, that you take it a little step further. The youth need a temperature taken when they arrive in their school communities. There also needs to be hand sanitizer stations in their school communities. Each youth in their school community needs to be practicing social distancing. The classroom needs to be set up with the desks being 6 feet apart. As a healthcare professional, we are overworked, we are stressed, we are afraid. 80% of patients that have contracted COVID-19 are patients that have not been vaccinated. The other 20% of patients who have been vaccinated are being discharged between 2 to 8 or more hours of being seen. Majority of these patients that are coming in are youth. I beg you to take it a step further. I am pleading with you to make sure that our youth, our teachers, our parents are safe. Thank you.
Thank you. I think is it Dalton McLean? Or Jen McLean? McLean, maybe. Those were in person. Okay, that is the end of my list of those individuals who signed up to testify. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to testify that had not had the opportunity to? Step forward, please. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, President Bellamy. I just wanted to do a shout out to all of our ASD employees. Corey Ace, Anchorage Education Association. And I'd like to do a shout out to all our employees and ask you to do the same before the end of the meeting. They really are rising above and beyond to welcome students, making their environments as welcoming and successful as possible. I'd also like to send out a special shout out to Grodden and Middle School, Eagle River Elementary. Those staffs worked so hard to bring those schools online today for those students. I was over at Grodden on Friday and again this morning, and I am really impressed at all the hard work that went over there. I didn't get over to Eagle River, but I know and heard from staff that they were working just as hard. So thank you, and have a great night.
Thank you. Come forward, please, and state your name. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Rachel Reese, and I am the candidate for City Assembly for District 6. So I'm not just here as somebody who is seeking a position in politics, but as a parent. The fundamental authority and right to direct the upbringing of a child includes during the school day. To that effect, COVID is not a black and white issue. It's not something that's a one-size-fits-all. What works in New York isn't relevant to Anchorage. I've had to pull my son out of ASD. I pulled him out at the beginning of the year last year because he is severely dyslexic, and you couldn't support him in an online format. Now you're telling me he has to wear a mask. He can't learn with a mask. He can't understand language therapy. He can't develop. You are discriminating against my child. I don't disagree with people who want their children to wear masks. I don't disagree with people who want to give their children the vaccine. I do disagree with the fact that this was foisted on us without any discussion or input from the parents or the taxpayers. I would ask that you reopen the discussion on whether or not our children should wear masks and consider the rights of the parents and their choices in whether or not to mask their child. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any more. As public testimony is closed. And that brings us to J on our agenda. School board and administration comments. And so I'm going to start at my right today for final comments.
Thank you, Madam President. Want to wish Anchorage families a good first week of school. I was at Eagle River Elementary yesterday and was talking to one of the Ignite educators, and she was in the middle of setting up 4 different classrooms, I think, at the same time. And so she only had one pair of hands. So kudos, hats off to all our educators. And I saw red carpets on social media today, signage. It was great to see students return to in-person education. I know that's where we all agree. It's where students need to be whenever possible. So Yeah, it's all said for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Donnelly.
Thank you, Madam President. I have 3 items. First, since we didn't have a chance at this work session to suggest things for the agenda like we typically do at work sessions, I'd like to request that the reconsideration of the school start plan be placed on the school board's agenda for an upcoming meeting. That's item 1.
Okay.
And item 2 is, I would also like to, as you were here last year, you know I raised concerns about Facebook and the Chinese government editing and censoring Facebook. Well, recently, I just was doing some Googling, relying on Google to check on Facebook. It's kind of ironic. But I could identify at least 6 school board meetings that were edited by Facebook to remove things that Facebook found inappropriate from them. And that's extraordinarily concerning that we're relying on a platform that actually puts themselves in the position of editing public meetings. And when the public meeting, that's the only forum that people can go to see those. I think I would very much like to put on the agenda a discussion of that. And so to make sure that if that ever happens to one of our meetings, that we make sure we've got a backup plan for putting it on the district site or some other forum so that people will not be subject to the editing whims of Facebook oligarchs. And third, I'd really like to have a discussion of restoring, putting the school board back on the municipal channel. I think it was a mistake that our meetings were deleted from the municipal channel. We're virtually the only government body that isn't on some sort of forum like that. And being completely dependent upon Facebook, I think is a mistake. And I think we ought to be on the municipal channel just like the assembly is. And we used to be. And I think we should go back to that. And I'd like to have a discussion of that and put on the agenda for a future meeting.
Thanks.
So those are the 3 agenda items I'm interested in. Finally, Madam President, I just, some of the testimony we just heard was really moving from parents. It was articulate, it was reasonable, it was based on science. It wasn't disparaging to anybody else, but they're very concerned about their children having to wear masks. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really unfortunate that anytime that kind of testimony would be characterized as politics and brushed off because it's political, is just really a mistake. It's not right. I mean, these people care. They're not here because of politics. They're here because they care about their kids. And they've made a rational decision based on the evidence that's available to them. And it shouldn't be just called politics. I think they're entitled to full, fair consideration of that incredibly reasonable testimony and not to be categorized and discredited on some phony categorization.
Thank you, Member Donnelly. Member Lessons?
Yeah, as a board member and as a parent, it was a joy, total joy, to see kids back in school today. To speak to community councils yesterday who were enthusiastic beyond measure about the opportunity for in-person learning. And so I wanted to thank everybody who has worked hard to make that happen here in ASD, in the city, in the healthcare sector. We're all in this together. And I'm also grateful for the last minute juggling that's happening within our schools and the administration to accommodate the uncertainties of student enrollment. I know there's last minute scrambling and teachers are being moved from one place to the next, and that's not easy. But the net result is that we're going to have better class sizes that are scaled correctly. And so I appreciate all of I appreciate the squeaky wheels who are calling attention to these things. And I appreciate the responses to fill in the gaps and to make it right.
Thank you, Member Lessons. Member Wilson.
So I again want to reiterate that I appreciate all of the work the staff has gone through to make sure that our students have a very successful start to their school year. And I know that's a lot of work and I applaud their efforts. I had a busy weekend On Friday, I attended a career technology and education in service, and that was amazing, the energy in the room from our CTE staff. One of the statistics that floated to the top for me was that 97.9%, there's a 97.9% graduation rate to include students who participate in CTE, 2 or more courses in a CTE pathway. There was a whole list, but to know that our students that are participating in our CTE pathways are being so successful and graduating at such a high rate was very exciting for me to hear. I also participated, attended, and helped out with the Fairview Rec Center school supply distribution. And there was, I want to say thank you to all the community members, all the community organizations that supported that event. There was, I can't even tell you how many cars in the hours that they had that event going come through and collect school supplies for their students, and other, there was other booths set up by different community organizations. Saturday morning at Clark Middle School, Cops for Community, APD, did an amazing event with thousands of families coming through to get school clothes for their kids, as well as food, lots of other wonderful things. I have to say, it was Steve Brown I saw coming through with cartful after cartful of clothes to restock. And there was so many other educators that participated in these events. So thank you to them as well. There was also an event at the Northway Mall with additional school supply distribution. So just really appreciate not just the staff and the educators, which I do really appreciate, but also the community coming forward and our businesses and organizations coming forward to support our youth. So thank you.
Thank you. Member Holloman.
Yes. I do want to say, after some of the comments people have made in the 2 weeks of testimony, I know a lot of people felt that we showed up with our minds made up, but the reality is we did see the plan in advance. We do have ideas about what we think are right, just like the folks showing up, but we are listening. I mean, I know why I feel the way I do. I'm always listening for someone that says something that makes me realize I may not be thinking about it clearly. Good points are raised, but the fundamental aspect that still stays with me is that masks are proven effective at keeping an infected person from spreading their infection. And we are in an unknown area where we're seeing a change in the number of children that get this, the number of children that are getting seriously ill. It is still small, but it seems to be changing in a growth direction. And those things just call for caution. Today, Anchorage is out of ICU beds. There are no spares. When we function, when our district functions, hundreds of people come together in almost 100 buildings, spend 6 hours together. It's not the same as passing in a grocery store. They spend a lot of time close together. We want to make sure with mitigation that we can keep our schools open, that we can keep kids face to face, and do the best job we can until we get to a point where we can take these off and not have to deal with them anymore. I feel confident it won't be permanent, but it will be for a little while. There's no question to me that some people have politicized it, but not any particular side. And everything I read that referenced the politicization of the issue, it didn't say one side did it or the other side did it, but for some people it has. And they're looking past the logic. They're finding ways to twist the logic to support their feelings, while other people are trying to look at it and ferret out what's true, what really matters, what the correct course is. There will be honest disagreement. One of the things I've always loved about Anchorage is the governing bodies do listen. But I will say that I think a lot of research and thought went into the policy. Masks are one part of it. And I have confidence that as the situation changes in the community, we will step back from all the mitigation efforts when it's safe to do so. And right now it looks anything but safe. I'll also say real quick, as someone that used to work in the buildings, and particularly when I did technology work, I was in the buildings weeks before kids came back. They're sort of like this building. They're just dull, lifeless office buildings with a bunch of grown-ups running around. Sorry. Until the moment, that first day, and suddenly they're full of kids, and the buildings have life in them again, and they're doing what they're supposed to do. It's a great moment. As someone pointed out, everybody that works in the building is an educator. Everybody in our buildings, in our buses, around the grounds is part of educating all of our kids. You never know which person a kid's going to connect to, have a meaningful relationship with, find that spark of passion that makes them study, makes them read, makes them learn. It was a great first day. I've heard from a lot of people that really had a great experience. I hope we can focus on making that happen and making that grow. We've got 179 days left, or 180 days left, roughly. Thank you all, everybody.
Thank you. Member Higgins?
Thank you. I'll start with just, I attended the Eagle River Elementary ribbon cutting ceremony, and how beautiful that new facility is. It's well done. My appreciation for that. Love Heavy's good to have that kind of environment here in Anchorage. And so to Eagle River, congratulations on having a really upgraded school. Really nice. Also express my appreciation for the mitigation meeting last week with the superintendent. I will say that I had a chance to, or was it yesterday, wasn't it? Yesterday. It had a great panel. I was most impressed with the DHSS, the medical staff there as well. And they really provided some direct, honest, from a science standpoint, from a medical standpoint type responses that I think were pretty informative to me. I thought I knew a little something about it, and I really got blown away with some of the responses and the details and the explanations. I think they did a great job with that, and I appreciate it. One of the concerns I have heard is and we heard the issue here about the mask and all the things negative, but one of the issues with that is that not all masks are alike. And so when I'm going to schools, I'm asking what masks they're doing. They're doing different masks. And I'm wondering from a school district standpoint, we're trying to follow the science. We're trying to do things in the way that's going to keep kids the safest within our facility. What standards we're using for those masks. That seems to be a question that a number of people are raising. Like I said, when I attended schools, they had different types of masks they were handing out within it. And I'm just a little concerned about that. If we had some type of explanation, some people are raising that as a question. I know things are going to change because what they would tell us 6 months ago is probably different than what they're going to say today, but we're acting upon the best science today. And whatever that issue is would be something I would like to get more information about as to what the expectations are. I know there are a lot of questions out there that have also been raised to me on the accommodation issues, not just in our facility, but in for those special needs outside of ASD facilities. And that's an issue out there. I'll refer that to the superintendent separately. But I think people are a little bit questioning and confusing on that. And what are reasonable accommodations for it. I want to listen to some of the schools. They gave me some pretty good explanations of how they're accommodating. I congratulate them on that. But I think there was some confusion still in that area, but that's probably not that shocking because this is all a new territory and things are going to be changing over time. I also want to, the other aspect of that is just backup. When kids are out for a week, when they're sick, we off school, in school, that sort of thing, and we might have still classrooms closed. I don't think we will. I think we're going to be a lot further along than school districts without masks because they're looking and already making plans to close classrooms and schools. What if it spreads? And we're taking the steps to really protect kids from maybe having to do that sort of thing. But having a backup plan for short periods of time, to me, and more details on that would really be great. And the last comment is just, I agree with Member Donnelly in regards to the agenda being a discussion. If we're going to get to the issue of bonds, for example, or use that as an example, if we wait till November to get forward with a proposal, we're not providing any input into it. We either have to approve it, there's no changes, there's no opportunity for the board to have an interactive discussion. So looking ahead at the calendar during the year in regards to what steps we could do, just so that we're informed within it. I'm impressed with the presentation they did for the in regards to the bonds. You know, we had some information on capital improvements, and I appreciate that. And it was a good presentation, but I still want to have a chance to have an input or have an explanation so that we have a meaningful discussion of that in a timely way, not just simply confirming something that we can't have any opportunity to provide an input. And so I like the idea of an agenda, but I like it to be kind of spelled out more during the year in regards to things that are coming up. These are time frames of when we have to make approval. Let's make sure we have time to have a discussion so that we can have a meaningful discussion. And if we have issues, it can be addressed and without setting the whole thing aside. So I appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Bishop.
Thank you, Madam President. I too want to echo what Corey Ace said. It was a great day. Lots of employees came back, made the success of the school year. So we thank our employees, our parents, our students for coming back, having opened up a couple of new schools in my day and working in them, as well as, you know, in a leadership position. It is a lot of work, and just thankful. The opening of Eagle River was very smooth last night and just quite exciting. And what was different about that is that it really brought the community back together, as well as the teachers back into one building. They had been in 5 different buildings, so it was exciting. I want to thank you, Member Higgins, for mentioning last night. If anyone has any questions in regard to the research of the masking, Dr. Zink, who's a colleague of Member Donnelly, as well as Dr. Robinowitz and Dr. Cutchins, all presented and took all those questions from parents. I want to say that I believe in public testimony, and Mr. Donnelly looked at me when he suggested about politics, and my letter really did speak to, and I know the board read it, that this issue is polarizing. We can feel that in our community, and that it becomes a political target. And what I asked for was just a great start to the school year. And that is simply what our community delivered. It was fabulous. And so I want to publicly thank people for allowing schools to be a place for children to learn and enjoy. In addition, it was mentioned that we use Facebook for our meetings. It might be true about social media and the like, but we'll look into it, but we actually utilize YouTube, not Facebook. And we've never put meetings on Facebook from the school board, but that could be affected by YouTube as well. So we'll take a look at that. Those are my comments, and thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Stock, you guys over there good? All right. Okay. So I just have just a couple of, just to put on the back burner in the back of your brain. We do have a joint meeting coming up with the Assembly. Perhaps we could put the Muni channel on that agenda to get more information. So as we plan that, we'll send you more information. I also know that there are masking options, just like you see various kinds. You see cloth, you see N95s. I don't see any shields in here. We sometimes use a shield with my grandson, but he has to be masked. So there are options available at the school. Parents just simply need to communicate with the school to see, we will do our best to provide the option that's going to be best for each child. I attended the joint Assembly Health Policy Committee, not a joint, it was just the Assembly Health Policy Committee. Dr. Stock joined me there, as well as Nurse Kathy, I forget her last name, Bell. And so that we had a good discussion, not just on the municipal status in what was happening in our city, but we were also able to present our plan for the year to school, our school start plan. So we are off to a great start. We have not made everybody happy. We totally understand that. I have personally responded to over 1,000 emails. They have not all been positive, but I believe everybody deserves to have a response. If they take time to write, then the least we can do is also respond. And I know other board members have also responded. So we are listening. And I'm hoping that our community will know that, you know, I mean, I sometimes respond to emails and people don't like my response. Well, there's not a lot I can do about that. I try to explain it again. So I think, and I've heard it tonight at least 3 times, we are all doing the best that we can. And we just have to keep doing the best that we can. So with that, I think I was the last one to speak. In terms of our governance, the documents that you received January 21st, those have been updated. They were in the red folder when we met in this room. Katie will be sending you out the updated ones so that you can review those. And I thank you guys very much for your time. And our meeting is, do I need a motion? I can just gavel.
Or you can hit the gavel.
We are